Your small business struggled through the pandemic to stay afloat. You need more exposure. Radio and print.
Of why Monday would be not a happy Monday now, because we certainly can't lean on the old tradition of worked all week and now I got to come back after the weekend. So you
Oh,
tell me, man, what do you think it is?
oh, well, I don't know about everybody else, but my weekends consist of the honey-do list.
Oh, say more about that.
Oh, that makes me run to work. Oh, gotta go. Sorry, babe. No, gotta go.
Oh, that's hilarious. So you got, is the list lengthy? Because I don't really have that list.
Woo, brother, and that list just doesn't stop growing. And then, unbeknownst to me, there's this hidden timeline for my list to be done. If it's not done, then I get in trouble.
Oh my goodness, trouble.
Yeah, I
Yeah, you
know.
too old to be in trouble.
I know,
I know.
sometimes you just kind of get those weekends where, I want to enjoy nothing.
Mm.
You
Man,
know,
those are good when you can get them and stack them up together.
yeah, brother, just, sit back, vegetate with some ice cream, binge watch a couple of shows, stay in my pajamas. I mean, just do nothing. I'm not answering the phone. Look, if people knocking on the door, unless it's a pregnant virgin on a donkey, I ain't leaving. Okay, that's it.
I wasn't ready for that one. Okay, hadn't heard that before. But people are dealing with a lot of things, no question about it. However, I would say that if we didn't learn nothing else the last 2 years, we've learned that as bad as it seems, we do make it through. And for those people who I've talked to, I just was doing a series of workshops over the weekend. And there's a lot of folks who are still obviously suffering and still dealing with losses. And loss is not just death and dying, although certainly that is huge on any human being's list. But there are loss of jobs, there's loss of relationships, there's all kind of losses that people are mourning. And so I just was trying to think, other than the honeydew list, I was wondering what other issues people may be dealing with that has them looking at Monday like not looking forward to it, you know?
Mm. Yeah, well, let's see. There's loss of job. There are some people who are re-emerging back to work.
Oh yeah.
There are some people who are not ever going back into their office. There
Yeah.
are issues dealing with job security.
Yeah. Some people have had to reinvent themselves, you know, which could be exciting on the one hand, but for others can be discouraging. And I think that's the challenge, Vince, with Mental Health Mondays and Happy Mondays and any kind of Monday, is that we're dealing with such a wide disparity and wide variety of personalities, life experiences, and how people view their reality. And so there are some people who are going to be looking forward to the Monday because it's a new opportunity, it's a new day. And like you've already stated, there are folks who are looking at it like, same old, nothing's changed, you know. I would look forward to going to work if I had a job, that kind of thing. So we have to take seriously the wide variety of people's experiences and why Mondays may be challenging.
Yeah, well, Mondays have never been challenging for me. Mondays have always been my catalyst, my launching of my week. It's, I
Mhm.
went through the whole week planning and developing and ready to get to the next Monday for the next step, the next growth, the answer and follow up of everything that I've got juggled in the air. It gives me an opportunity to cross one of those things off my life bucket list and to-do list in terms of
Mhm.
business and growth and happiness. Monday
Yeah,
is the start of my gym week.
yeah.
It's uh,
I'm glad you mentioned that. With one of my clients who's very busy, like you and I are, and doing all the different things that we're doing, and many of your viewers out there, I'm sure, can relate. One of the challenges with all the things you just named is, when do you have time for yourself? Now business, you may say, well, that's for me, or closing that deal, that's for me. Well, yeah, sort of, kind of. But when you talked about eating ice cream and binge watching shows and all that, it really made me think about something that you and I have talked about offline, and that is how many people put their name on their calendar. When you look at your calendar and the to-do list, as you put it, and all the responsibilities that many people have, oftentimes people shortchange themselves with that time that is just for them. Some people say, "Man, I don't have leisure time. I can't afford to take off, or I can't afford to." Well, I would submit to your viewers, you can't afford not to, right? Because if you are not starting that gym week, or starting that checking off the boxes, that's some things you got to get done, and you're worrying about things that either you don't have control over, or it's a situation where time will tell. It is harder than people think to simply add a 30 minutes. I'm not even asking for a whole day, y'all. I'm saying give yourself 30 minutes just for you. And hopefully you can graduate and add to that. But most people can figure out 30 minutes to look and see your name on the calendar, wherever you do it. I put it on my phone because I don't use wall calendars anymore. But I put it's on my phone. I look at it, and there's my name. And just as serious as I am about keeping an appointment with Vince, because I don't miss no appointments with Vince. And just as serious as I am about that, I'm gonna be just as serious about keeping that
you're
appointment with
early
my
for appointments with Vince.
hey, I look forward to seeing Vince. But you know what? Why not have that same enthusiasm with yourself? Why not have that same commitment to making sure, you know what, that's my day. That's my 30 minutes. That's my hour. That's what I'm saying.
Well, doctor, thank you,
Yes.
because there are not a lot of people who are have that level of enthusiasm about seeing Vince. See, there's some places I walk in the door and they go, "Here, this mother."
He's back.
Oh God! Yeah, go.
Yeah. Well, just because they call you out your name don't mean they don't love
Oh yeah, they called me out my name, but not to my face.
you. Yeah. But I
But
tell you, man, it's people. It sounds cliche, but when you are committed to your own well-being, you actually are a better and a greater benefit to your family and to the community at large. I mean, it sounds like, well, how is that possible? Well, I asked you a question, and I asked your viewers the question: what good are you if you're not healthy and well? What good are you to anybody? Yourself, your family, the community, your job, if you have a job where you have to actually go in or something, or even if you're working remotely. The bottom line is you have to take care of yourself. And that's what Mental Health Mondays are about in my mind.
doctor, I have to confess, and they say confession is good for the soul.
That's
It's
what they
just
say.
bad for the reputation. I have to confess, I have sacrificed me. I have definitely sacrificed me. Somebody needs something. If I got something scheduled for me, up, that's gotta go. Let me go take care of this. Work project has to be done. I haven't gotten it done through my normal, 8, 9.5 hour work day. Then, let me sacrifice some weekend time because I have to get it done. Someone's having a recital, birthday, something at church going on. Okay, let me sacrifice me to serve others. And I mean, I'm guilty of it to the point where, I just said, wait a minute. I'm getting a lot done. No, but I'm not happy in my accomplishments.
Mm, yeah.
You-
Yeah. I'm sure some of your viewers can relate to that. And what I would say is, I used to think that too. I used to think I was getting a lot done. And I'm just going to confess, since it's good for the soul,
Mhm.
I'll worry about
Let's
my
talk about your
reputation later.
reputation
I'll worry
later.
about my reputation later. But
Okay.
I'll have to confess that I used to think the same thing. Well, I'm getting a lot done. And something my dad shared with me, God rest his soul. My dad passed in 2009, and he was my hero. He was my mentor, all of those things. And I tried to pattern my life a little bit after his, because if I could do 1/3 of the things he's accomplished, I would be like, wow, I'm that guy. But I'm working on it. But what he told me was, he said, son, you're never going to look back on life and wish you had worked more. And I used to think, I was like, okay, well, that's great. Dad's a
That's
wise man,
true.
And then and then it hit me. I'm like, wow, what was he really telling me? He was saying, in his very unique way of how he and I communicated, prioritize your life. And when you prioritize your life, work will find its place. Because we all know you got bills to pay, you got things to do, you got to eat, you got family. Everybody got that. However, you mentioned not always being happy with your accomplishments. That means, did you really accomplish what you think you accomplished? And that's more than closing a deal. That's more than putting a check in the bank. Being happy about your accomplishments means you can also feel fulfilled in your life as you're doing those things to take care of your family, as you're checking off those boxes. It can be a both and things. It doesn't have to be an either or. That's what I'm saying.
Well,
That is why the focus of health and wellness is so prominent in my life. And so, again, I'm not perfect. I'm still working on it, but I do less of the got to get it done on the weekend, got to add extra hours to the day, got to do more and more like this, because I found that when I am doing things that help me, going to the gym, like you mentioned, eating healthy, taking a break, watching that show, if that's what you want to, whatever you want to do, man, I
hey,
feel a lot better.
Doc, you don't know the huge healing of my mental prowess by watching 30 minutes of Maury. I mean, man, you are not the father. Oh, Lord. My wife is like, why are you watching that trash? Because it's mind numbing. It doesn't take.
I wasn't expecting Maury.
You
But you know
were.
what? I get it. I get it, Vince, because that's the same reason I watch sports. Now, you and I, we were young once, and I was an athlete. I was a high level athlete. Played in college and different things.
Me too.
So I'm one of those people who prefer to participate than watch. However, similar to reality shows that people watch, similar to your Maury benches, that's what sports do. And I watch any sport. It doesn't have to be one of the sports I played in. I mean, just this past weekend, I was driving through a park in Philadelphia, and there was a cricket match going on.
Mm.
I had
Oh,
some
yeah.
place to go, but it wasn't an emergency. Man, I pulled over. I was like, oh, I remember when I was in certain other places, stopping and watching when I was in Bermuda, different places where it's prominent. But
Yeah.
in the middle of Fairmount Park, I'm like, hey,
Well, I used to be a member of the cricket club in
there you
Germantown.
go.
Yeah.
There you go. So I pulled over. I'm like, I'm watching, and man, it was just, I didn't watch the whole match, but I stopped for 15, 20 minutes, watched folks who are in the game, having a great time. The weather was beautiful. I was just driving around, going to my next appointment. And so sometimes it can be planned, it can be impromptu, spontaneous, but still, even though it was a game and the match had nothing to do with me, I had no money on the game, I don't even know the players. I can still check that box that I did something for me, even though it was spare the moment, it was spontaneous. I saw it, I liked it. I said, oh, I want to see that. I've done the same thing driving through FDR Park, seeing a soccer match. Again, I don't know the people, I don't know the players. I'll stop and watch a little league baseball game, man. That's how bad it is for me in terms of sports. However, I'll also watch it on TV because it's something that doesn't take a whole lot of mind numbing conversation. Not that conversation's bad, just depends on who you're talking to. There were no problems involved. There was no COVID. There was no political left or right. There was no murder. There was no other crimes. There was no pain other than in case if you miss that ball and it hits you on the shin, then you got a problem.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying.
Right. Right.
So I can't say it was mind numbing.
But,
like watching Maury.
But it's for me, it's an off switch.
Yes.
There are no wars. There are nobody fighting. Well, they are fighting, but I mean, there are, no big, lots of death counts going up and, stock worry or, economy issues or political issues whatsoever.
Right.
It's just simple,
That's it, man. And that's why it was so life-giving. Watch what we do here. It was life-giving because the things that detract from our lives, worry, politics, infighting, racism, sexism, all those isms, none of that was on display for the 15 or 20 minutes I pulled over to watch a cricket match.
Right.
It was simply a group of human beings doing what human beings do, enjoying the moment. And I was vicariously observing and getting something from it, just like we vicariously take on negative things when we watch too much of the wrong news programs or too much of the wrong alerts. Vince, what I do for a living. I get alerts on my phone every time something happens in the city that ain't good, right?
Yeah.
And also because I'm a professor at Temple University, I get alerts when something bad happens on campus.
Right.
So what you and I are talking about and sharing with the audience is it doesn't have to be some huge big plan. Those are nice too. Plan a trip to Cabo, but it can also be a spare of the moment, spontaneous, life-giving moment that you give to yourself by shutting off, I like what you said, that switch, shutting off the inundation, being inundated with negativity, and by choice, flipping on a switch of something positive and life-giving.
Yes. Now, we're going to come back. And you mentioned something about prioritizing and putting yourself in the picture. I'm really loving this because I'm finding out more and more that, self-love and self-care is not being selfish. So we'll be right back with Dr. H. Gene Wright II in 2 minutes, 2 seconds. and welcome back to What You Gotta Say. And I'm with the right doctor. So, doctor, we were talking about prioritizing your life. Okay, I thought I was with my schedule, but I seem to have left me out of the schedule.
Yes, and it happens quite often, Vince. And what I would say is, if you do not have the time to think about what you would do if you had the time, then you're way too busy. And so I'll give an example. Before COVID, and actually during COVID, I would drive. If anything 8 hours or less, I would drive. So, I go back and forth to the Midwest. And when you didn't have the option of flying, it worked out because I like driving anyway. And I got some of my best thinking done during that 8-hour trip. Now, a lot of people say, oh, it's flat, it's boring, what are you doing? But I didn't use the radio, except when I wanted to, didn't put in a tape unless I intentionally meant to. And I used that time to process. So again, I'm trying to give people examples of things that, one, are cost effective, doesn't cost you a lot of money, right? I had to drive anyway. I had to go on the trip anyway because I was taking care of business. And during that period, I was able to prioritize my schedule, my process, my thinking. You could do the same thing on a plane, even though a plane ride is shorter. All that downtime that we sometimes have that we don't count as downtime. We think it should be filled with busyness. And what I'm suggesting is prioritizing doesn't have to be some huge strategic plan, right, that you do at work. It can be simply thinking about yourself in a way that says, what would be beneficial for me today, this week, this next hour, those kind of things, and fitting that in your schedule, just like you do other priorities. We do what we want to do.
Yes.
Just like we buy what we want to buy. People say, oh, I don't have the money for that. Well, people find the money for what they want, right? And people say, I don't have the time for that. People find the time to do what they want to do. So prioritizing is something we do all the time. We simply do not always prioritize ourselves. And that's the difference.
Okay, so I felt guilty. I felt extremely guilty. The time that I could, spend doing housework, I'm waiting for the lightning.
That was a nice pause.
Yeah, I'm waiting for the lightning to come down. Talking about me doing housework.
Hey, I wasn't going to mention it.
or the time that I'm, kind of in my vegetation state, where I'm just doing nothing just for the sake of doing nothing. I mean, I felt really guilty because there was so much that I could be accomplishing getting that done. So much that needed my care and attention, so much that, needed to continue going on until my dad was talking to me. He said, son, I knew a preacher who, worked hard at his church, worked hard to build his church, started, it was just him and his wife, and then him and his wife and friends, and then family, and then other people came into the church family, and then it got so big that they moved to another church, and then it got so big that they moved to another church, and he just spent all his time there. And his wife, people would call him, they call his house, and his wife says, no, he's home. He says, well, I'm calling the house. He said, no, he doesn't live here, he lives at the church. But it didn't stop him. He just kept going and working on his sermons and speeches and pews and ironing and cleaning and vacuuming and painting and making sure that everything was right for every service, because he was building his church. Then he had a heart attack. And they buried him, and everybody looked around and said, boy, that was a nice funeral. They said, yeah. So then they said, so who's preaching Monday? I mean, who's preaching Sunday? Things are going to go on without you.
Yes, they will.
People, you think that, you have to be there, you have to do it, you have to be hands-on, you have to be consistently working. But, in all reality, things my dad was trying to tell me that, no, son, things are going to find its way and work its way out without you.
Yeah.
And you have to pick how the without you comes about. It could be
Mhm.
without you because you decided to take some self-care,
Mhm.
or it could be without you because you're dead.
Wow. You know what? That's a sobering point, and I think it is directly connected to the statement you made previously before telling the story, and that is that you feel guilty when you're not doing those things that you have prioritized, taking care of other people's business, taking care of other people, checking boxes and all those things that we tend to do. And just like you have that feeling like, wow, I could be accomplishing this or that, or wow, I could have gotten that done or this done. If we use that same mindset for ourselves, we'll still have time to do those things. And that's why putting yourself on the calendar, actually putting your name physically, visibly, either in your phone or on, if you use a wall calendar, fine, somewhere where you can actually see it, because that translates that your optical nerves that are looking to give you vision, and then it transfers and gives that message to your brain when you see it actually does something.
Mm.
That's why when people try to remember something, they have to see it, hear it, right, and speak it. And it has three different ways to be encoded in your brain, right? That's why I tell people all the time, when you write something, read it out loud so that you can also hear it, because the auditory part now will help you remember in a different way than if you just see the words and don't say anything, or if you simply look at it, something like that. So when you intentionally put yourself on the calendar, you are actually triggering a memory, a encoding, so that you remember that you are also a priority. It doesn't mean that you don't do the other things that are priority. It means that you schedule those things that are important to you. And one of those things that should be important to you should be your health.
Hmm.
And when you add it in and you work it out just like you do other things that are happening in your day or your week, it becomes a habit. And then you become a habit to yourself. And you're right, Vince, it's not selfishness, it's self care. And like I said, for those people who don't believe it, it's not like you're not going to do the things that you feel obligated to do. You may do them differently. You may do them less often or at a different period of time. You may shorten what you do, like you gave the good pastor church story. I think that's a good story, and it's a lesson for all of us. You can still build the church. You can still build your business. You can still build relationships, but you don't have to do it 24/7, because 24/7 means no time for you to refuel, to regenerate, to reconcile and all of those reads, that all those prefixes that I'm using. When you do that, that means something has occurred that you can now replicate.
Hmm.
Good health is replicable. You can actually replicate going to the gym. You can actually replicate eating well. You can replicate taking some time and just going for a walk in the park or whatever it is for you. It's different for everybody. And so your audience has the advantage of knowing what they like. And if you don't know, if you forgot what you like, that means it's been a long time. It means you're out of practice, right? And so that feeling of guilt can be mitigated by adding not just your name to your calendar, but also continuing to do the other things that you like and the things that you are responsible for. Because we understand adults have to be accountable and responsible. And if you happen to have children, it is also a good model to show them good self care.
Okay. Men who don't do a lot of self-care, or actually care for themselves, or get in touch with their passions, or um, recharge
Mhm.
their spirituality or mental health. Is that a huge cause of midlife crisis?
Well, I think we could have a separate show on midlife crisis and the health of men. We could call that, manly health or something like that, because there's a
Mhm.
lot of folks who give men a bad name. They call, toxic masculinity. I'm sure you've heard that term and some other things. And
Yeah.
there are a lot of things that happen by not taking care of yourself. One of which is um, having difficulty getting along with others and being so insulated or self-absorbed that you don't have touch with reality with other people. That's the opposite of what we're talking about. When you're
Okay.
so self-absorbed or so selfish that you are the priority above any and all other things and all people. That's the opposite of what we're
The
talking
universe
about.
revolves around
Yes. Yes,
you.
that's the egocentrism. That's the opposite of what we're talking about. We're talking about our mind, body, and spirit. That three-legged stool.
Right.
Take any leg away and the stool don't work.
Right.
Okay? Mind, body, spirit. Yes, men do have a problem being holistic and addressing their health, mind, body, and spirit. We have bought into the myth that we are only here to work and pay bills and to make other people happy by earning a living. That is one responsibility among many. And if you are not healthy, and if you are not at your best and at your peak, that recharging, I like that term you use, you're not going to be able to do those things very long anyway, the things that you do think are your priorities. So by having a balance, mind, body, spirit, balance, you're able to address the whole organism, that's us, in a way that allows us to be the most productive. You want to be productive? Get some rest. You want to be productive? Eat healthy and drink lots of water and exercise. You want to be productive? Take some time away from the rat race, so to speak. Get off that hamster wheel, if you will, and take in a movie if that's what you like to do. Take in a ball game if that's what you like to do. Yeah, binge on Maury. Why not?
I can smell the roses.
Yeah, and some people don't smell roses, they eat ice cream. I get it. Whatever. Oh, that's not healthy, doc. Well, guess what? Every now and then, it probably won't kill you. The point is, you did something that you enjoy doing. It may not be all the time, but it's something that you can really say, I took a break. I stepped away. That's really what we're saying. And so we're not trying to be prescriptive and telling people what to do. We're simply saying, find out what you like to do. Find out and maybe remind yourself of what you used to do. Maybe that's the issue. But whatever it is, men need to take better care of their health.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a break, but I did like what you said about taking a break from the rat race, because you know what I find out about the rat race? The problem with it is that the rats are winning. So we'll be right back, and I'm with the Wright doctor, Dr. H. Gene Wright II, and this is Mental Health Monday. See you all in 2 minutes, 2 seconds. Dr. Wright, I gotta tell you my Love Park story. I used to live on South Street, on Fourth and South, and my work was at 17th and Arch. So I'd walk by Love Park, and at that time, that was the park where everybody was smoking marijuana. So I walked by there one day, and I floated all the way to my office, and I woke up. It was 5 o'clock. So from that point on, I said, "Okay, I'm going to take the bus."
Walk around.
Yeah. So, all right, prioritizing our lives, making us important. You know, Doc, last time we talked and you said put yourself on your calendar, and I did that, and I realized that I have my time with my wife on my calendar, daily. I mean,
Mhm.
that's how I got really good at foot massages, because when, she gets her time with me, she's like, okay, she starts taking off her shoes. It's on foot massage, neck massage. That's it. But I've never put myself on there. And then, yeah, I did feel like, okay, I'm validated. Wow, I'm actually important in my own life. Okay. So, all right, doing that, prioritizing.
Mhm.
After we prioritize and make ourselves important, being not being selfish, but having self-care. Now what?
And now what is that you will have regenerative energy to do the things that you were thinking you were going to feel guilty about if you didn't do them all the time.
Mm,
Taking that break to regenerate, taking that break to validate oneself
mhm,
actually gives you more brain energy, more physical energy, more spiritual wisdom and discernment to do the things that you felt guilty not doing to prioritize yourself.
mhm.
It's really a simple thing. This is not quantum physics we're talking about here. This is what you put in is what you get out. It's the simple thing. That's why we know what you eat is so important. Now, people are going to eat what they want to eat because we don't eat for fuel like we're supposed to. We eat for taste and because we have certain addictions and desires. Okay. So, what do you do to then counteract that with something that is healthy? Does that mean you don't eat ice cream? No, ice cream's fine, right? That's your thing. But you have to balance that out with some other things that actually give you the fuel that you need to carry things out. When I used to do bodybuilding on a regular basis, I kept journals for what I ate, and I connected what I ate to my performance later that evening in the workout,
Yeah,
and I
I
could
do
connect
too.
it to my performance down the road. Same thing when I played ball, right? It's easier when you eat at the athlete's table because, you got all these varieties and it's usually all good for you. But then when you get to that point where you have to do it for yourself, sometimes we get a little lazy, right? And we don't prioritize ourselves, or we eat too much fast food because we're working so hard, we don't have time to sit down at a table and eat a home cooked meal, for example. So all of these things can be simplified by prioritizing ourselves in such a way that it doesn't mean you become a fanatic about food. It doesn't mean you become a fanatic about exercise. It means balance. That's all we're talking about here. And if you are so imbalanced that you think doing something for yourself is not a good thing, then that means you're out of whack. And I'm not saying let the pendulum swing so far the other way that you become like that other group we talked about, which is me, 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 me. No, that's too far. It swung too far. The
Mhm.
balance we're seeking is in one, taking the time to step back away and kind of remind yourself of the things that you used to like within reason. What are those things that are helpful? What are those things that gave you your best performances? Right. So that's what I'm talking about.
Or can we use that time to reintroduce ourselves to our passions?
That would be great. I mean, some people, believe it or not, Vince, some people have actually forgotten what their passions were. There are people who gave up on dreams a long time ago, not because they're feeling negative or anything, but because they got so busy. They got so busy paying bills and working to pay bills that they forgot that they used to like to write. They forgot that they used to like to play golf. They
Mm,
forgot that they used to like to create and go see other people who create. going to the arts, being a part of the arts. I love the arts. Anything that is creative, right? So
Or
if you
even
don't have time for
playing,
that, say that again.
or even playing music.
All of that, whatever it
Mm.
was that got you excited. Think about it. How many people go into some job, even if it's virtual, where you don't have to leave your basement, your office at home, wherever you do your virtual. If you're watching the clock, that ain't your passion. I can truly say,
watch
Vince,
the clock.
I can truly say, Vince, I can tell you, man, you know all the things that I do. I can truly tell you, I'm not watching the clock on none of them. I'm not watching the clock, man. When I'm teaching, you know, I tell my students, I always got a student in front row. Okay, tell me when I get to this point, because that means it's time to let y'all go, because I'm enjoying it. So when I'm doing my workshops or the seminars, you know, I got to time them things out because I'm having a good time. I just did it this past weekend, man. I was having a great time. You know, it was being streamed all over the place and everything, but I always have somebody in the audience who keep me on track because I'm having a blast, right? I love helping people. I love teaching. I love doing all the things that I do. And guess what? I love going to the gym. I like going to the show. I already told you, I like pulling over on the side of the road when I see a good game breaking out somewhere. Hey, nothing more fun than driving through FDR Park and see a group of little leaguers playing baseball. They got the uniforms on, the whole thing, head to toe. You know, can't catch, can't throw. Boy, I love it. You know? Right? Because they are doing their passion, Vince.
Right.
And the parents are there, egging them on, hoping to get the next, you know, Mariano Rivera.
Yeah? There you go. My kid needs a $200 million contract.
Hey,
Get that Rolls Royce.
You got all these parents out there in Little League parks hoping that they have a retirement plan on the field. You know, and the thing is, but it's passion. And so sometimes, man, we forget the simple things in life, trying to do the big things in life, and we miss out. It's that whole conversation about focusing on the destination as opposed to enjoying the journey. It's again, it sounds like a cliche. And the reason it sounds like a cliche is because it's said often, right? The point is we got to stop saying it and do it.
Right.
Remind yourself what put a smile on your face when you were in college and you were creating this or creating that. It's the same with relationships. I used to tell them when I used to do couples therapy, I had to, you know, I quit that after I had to go running, kicking and screaming. I was like, I can't do couples anymore. You know, I don't have enough walls in my office to keep people from beating each other up, right? But the thing, what I learned from doing that is this, Vince. People used to always come into those sessions having forgot why they were together in the first place. They had forgotten their passion. They had forgotten what made them attractive to one another. They had forgotten where the love came from because they had gotten into the routine of life, checking boxes, right? Prioritizing things other than their relationship. And so this thing about balance fits individuals, it fits couples, it fits families, it fits children, in between seniors. Everybody can benefit from balance. Three-legged stool, mind, body, spirit. And when you do that, you have a quality of life. I can't guarantee the number of years, but when you do these things, the quality improves. Quantity will take care of itself if you do the right thing. But you got DNA, you got genetics. We can't even talk about that. But if you do things for yourself that remind you of your passion, that make you happy, you mentioned music. Oh man, that's a big one for me too. Right?
Yeah.
I'm not a musician. I don't have that skill set, but I admire people who do. And I don't mind paying money to hear somebody play a good piano. I don't mind going to a good jazz show and listening to somebody who put the work in. Right.
Right.
So whatever it is for you, you're right, Vince. Find your passion.
Right. And we're going to talk more about self-care, mind, body, spirit, and your passions. And I'm with the right doctor for Mental Health Monday. I'm Vincent Squire with Dr. H. Gene Wright II, and we'll be right back. 2 minutes, 2 seconds. we're talking, and one of the things you said was, quality of life, which is what I've always worked hard or strive for, a better quality of life rather than the quantity of life, a better quality of my relationship with my wife, because, you could do 20 years and not know the woman, or or even live in the same, or even sleep in the same room. But, does the quality of life, does that impact your mental acuity, health, muscle?
Yes, it does. It does, Vince. And I'm glad. I like how you put that, because when you think about the balance that we've been discussing today and how it feeds one into the other, mind, body, spirit. Other people have used examples, like the links of a chain. If there's a weak link in the chain, the whole chain is weak. And cannot be used for what it is meant to use for, which is to hold things together with strength. And so balance is the same thing for mental health. Mental health should be as much of a priority as our physical health, as our spiritual health. And when you think about what makes us human, that's what I'm referring to in terms of the holistic approach to the organism, which is, what are the things that make us alive? What are the things that make us different than the other creation? What is it about human beings that make us unique in our ability to think, our ability to feel, our ability to carry out what comes to our mind, choice, option, all of those things. Many of those things can be compromised when we forget balance. That's really what we're talking about today. And that is what puts pressure on our mental health, so that it can be compromised and people form issues with how they see themselves, self-esteem as an example. You also have things like depression and anxiety that come from just having a difficult time dealing with the challenges in life. So I guess what I'm saying is, life is tough enough without us putting our own selves in harm's way, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm saying, right?
The truth.
Sometimes we are our own worst enemies, Vince. That's what I'm
Mhm.
saying. Let's not be our own worst enemy by not taking care of our mind, body, spirit.
My grandfather used to say, "Ain't no need to beat yourself up, son. There are way too many qualified people to do that for you."
Well, qualified or not, they folks standing in line to get you. There's no question about that. So yeah, and so I think one of the main things that impacts our mental health is fatigue. Now, that's going to be sound kind of interesting or strange to some people. Like, what do you mean fatigue? Well, I'm talking about being sick and tired of being sick and tired.
Mm.
That kind of fatigue.
Yeah,
You know,
like COVID.
yeah. I mean, it just sapped people's energy,
Hmm.
not just physically if you happen to contract the virus, but thinking about it, hearing about it, watching the news about it. It
Hmm.
became tiring. It was fatiguing.
Hmm.
And so other things can happen. Being in a bad relationship is tiring. It saps your energy,
Oh,
right?
that's a life sucking drain, bro.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. Yeah,
Been
don't
there.
co-sign too much. Don't co-sign too much.
No, bro. I promise. I've been there, done that. I got the shirt, but she got it in a divorce. I mean,
Okay. Right. And so a lot of people, you mentioned at the top of the show that some people aren't going back to their job. They could, but they
Mhm.
said, no, I ain't doing that no more.
Right,
That could actually be a self-care decision
right.
to not go back. And
It's
there's a
right.
lot of people who have made determination that, you know what, I'm going to do my thing. I've been wanting to do A, B, C, and D. I've
I've
been
been
wanting
wanting
to
to
go in
open up
business
my
since.
own, have my own
Yeah,
business.
right. And
Hmm.
so it may not have been what they would have done or how they would have chosen to have it happen, but circumstance came about where they're like, look, I got some decisions to make. And
Car,
other
car,
people went back to school.
Carpe diem.
That's it. Other people decided, you know what, I'm going to focus more on my health and have done so. Other people decided to do some of those remodeling things that they've been wanting to do and had the skill to do, but haven't done it. You know,
Right.
I wish I was a carpenter. I wish I could build something. People built decks and they were beautiful. They've been talking about it for years, right? A couple of my neighbors are like, yeah, I finally did it. And it was gorgeous. It was beautiful, look professional, right?
Hmm.
So I guess what I'm saying is, when we think about what's good for our mental health, we have to remember the mind, body, spirit connection. That what is good for your physical health also helps your mental health. What's good for your spiritual health also helps your mental health and vice versa. The key is if we're doing the things that are life-giving, following our passions, helping others, doing things that remind us of our humanity, it actually does become a protective factor for your mental health. There's a lot of risk factors out there. We named a lot of them. And every Monday, we're going to talk about a lot of them because that's what people are dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
But we also want to give ample time to some of the protective factors. And that's what we've done today, is talk about those things that actually can promote mental health and can benefit our mental health. And that's why we added the three-legged stool, because we don't want to be so focused on mental health that we forget the other things. So no matter what we're talking about, we're always talking about balance.
Excellent. Well, I can tell you this: some of your suggestions are a heck of a lot better than going to somebody to give to medicate you out of your problems, but
Well,
simply.
You know what I say about that, Vince? Some people need medication. Please take your medication.
Please take your meds. Yes.
But not everybody.
Right.
And I can also say not everybody needs therapy. Not everybody needs counseling. People do need support, and that can come in lots of fashion. People do need resources, and that can come in lots of fashion. I am a mental health professional, so I am going to be an advocate for counseling and therapy. But I also recognize that just like college is not for everybody, you can learn things in different ways. Just like vocational school is not for everybody. So nothing is for everybody. However,
well, there's no hard and fast rule for 5 billion people.
No, absolutely not. That's why if you don't know yourself, if you do not have a relationship of yourself with yourself that you can reasonably rely on your opinion of yourself, that's where low self-esteem comes in, unreasonable expectations come in. All these things, that there are so many people who don't know their talent, don't know their skill set, don't know what they're good at, why they're good at it, and the fact that you are not just worthy, but you are valued because not of what you can contribute and what you do, but because of who you are. When you don't have that mindset, that's unhealthy, Vince. That's unhealthy. And when you do not take the time to prioritize mind, body, and spirit, you cannot possibly be at the top of your game, whatever that is, whatever that is. And so that's why we're encouraging people to take time, not just on Mental Health Monday, but every day, to make sure that they, one, get in touch with who they are. Again, I say that, Vince, because a lot of people don't know, believe it or not. And so it's hard to know what you like, what you're good at, what you can do to feel good about yourself if you don't know yourself. That's why it's important to put your name on your calendar so you can get to know yourself again.
Well, Dr. Wright, it's always great having Mental Health Mondays with you.
Yes, glad to be here.
So we've been running a little ticker tape of where people can get your book. How is the new book coming along?
It's coming along quite well. Working with a couple of experts with me that are from the clergy world and faith community, and also doing a lot of interviews with folks who are in the trenches on a regular basis. A lot of the travels that I do around the country, talking to folks and doing the workshops and seminars I do, I have the benefit of also being able to connect with people who have contributed to the book. So stay tuned. Hopefully we'll be out by the end of the spring, early summer, and I'll keep you posted.
I hope you talk about it on this show. So I'm looking forward to it. All right. Well, Dr. Wright has touched on a lot of great things. But my biggest takeaway is this. Self-care is not selfish. You need to care for yourself, because if you don't care for yourself, who's going to care for your family and those people who are depending upon you? One of the things is not being able to care for them financially, which is why we work so hard. A lot of us do. And myself included. Yes, work very hard because I've got those financial goals, yet very unhappy about reaching those goals because I've disrupted the balance. I spent so much time on work that I've disrupted the balance of my relationship with my wife and children. I've disrupted the balance of my exercise schedule. I disrupt the balance of my eating and not eating right because I'm so focusing on doing other things. Self-care is not selfish. Having a therapist and talking to someone is not a sickness or a disease. Being able to express yourself truly and finding out and refinding out or reinventing yourself is not a bad thing to do. Take that time, even if it's just 30 minutes a day, to find your passions, to find your peace, to find your balance. I'm Vincent Squire, and with our co-host, Dr. H. Gene Wright II, if it's God's will, I'll be back and talk with you tomorrow with the Three Wise Ones. God bless everyone.